Hi there. Thank you for tuning in to our latest episode of Sempra Chats. I'm Kristin Auraas, Communications Program Manager for Sempra Energy. And today I'm chatting with Brian Kelly, our Vice President of Federal Government Affairs. Brian leads our legislative and regulatory priorities at the federal level, and he ensures that our company's voice is heard in Washington, D.C. Today, he's going to help us understand some of what we're hearing from the federal government in response to COVID-19. Brian, thank you for being here today. First of all, how are you and your family doing? Rumor has it you're spending a lot of time in the kitchen.
Thanks, Kristin. Yes, so my daughter is spending her senior semester from Baylor at home, and we have been cooking things that we've never cooked before. So we cooked homemade baguettes, homemade croissants, and we are on our way to empanadas. And so we are baking and cooking as much as we can.
That's awesome. Cooking is definitely a great stress release for me. And I know for me, my dogs are certainly thrilled to have me home full time. And Brian, I know we've all heard about the stimulus bill in the news. It's the largest relief package ever. At over $2 trillion, this COVID-19 aid bill includes taxpayer rebates, expanded unemployment benefits, and assistance to small businesses, to name a few. Can you tell us a little bit about how this will affect the energy industry and companies like Sempra Energy?
To your point, it is $2 trillion, and that is a lot of money that is being put into the system. It's interesting for a company like Sempra, who has a very strong balance sheet. A lot of what you don't want is the law of unintended consequences. So we have, and our team have been tracking, how does this not only affect us as a company, but how does it affect our customers, not only in California, but in Texas. So we have been analyzing the bill, working with our trade associations to try to understand what it is that we can take advantage of, but also what can our customers take advantage of.
So given the scope of the bill, it sounds like there's a lot for your team to unpack still. Can you talk to us a little bit more about how it will affect not only the company, but our communities and the customers that we serve?
That's a great question. So let's start with Sempra itself. In the package, there is funding for personal protective equipment to ensure that our employees that are on the front lines have the equipment they need to be able to go into people's homes and so that they're protected. The other thing that this happened was that we were able to get designated that our employees and Sempra itself is considered critical infrastructure, which is very important for us to continue to operate. As many of you know, a lot of companies were told they had to shut down, but this allows us to continue to operations. With our customers, whether they be a business customer or a residential customer, for those that are on the lower end of the spectrum, one of the things that the government is going to do is literally write them a check. That is unheard of. And so whether you are a small business, a pizza parlor, or just a general consumer, you're going to receive a check, and those started coming on Monday, today. And those checks are going to go out if you've paid your 2017 and 2018 taxes online. And so you have direct deposit, those checks will start to show up in your account. The other thing that we're watching is how does this affect Sempra itself? And one of the things is that we want to ensure is that Sempra maintains its liquidity as a company. So remember, the government has done this to the economy to protect for the pandemic. So we have a very strong balance sheet led by Trevor Mihalik and his team. So ensuring that we can then continue operations, that is the most important thing. So working with our sisters across the country, other utilities, this is something that we are watching to ensure that we have a stable economy to be able to operate and deliver our service.
It does seem like the government is really attempting to mitigate all the negative impacts that this virus and pandemic is having on our economy. I know this is actually the third major package in response to COVID-19. Can you talk to us a little bit about the first two? And also, what's next? Do you think there will be a phase 4?
What we're going to see in phase 3.5 is another $250 billion that will go to small businesses. And then phase 4, we have no idea. That is still to be determined. But what we will see is potential discussions about how you help small businesses and individuals deal with potential no shutoffs of utility services, whether they be water, gas, electricity, and how that would work. So those things are being discussed that would actually affect us, but also affect our consumers. But right now, I think what we are watching for is how does the law of unintended consequences not only affect Sempra, but also our customers? And so we look and work with our legislators, not only in Washington, but in Sacramento and in Austin, Texas, to ensure that our customers, as well as our community, Sempra employees, are protected.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate all your insights on the stimulus package. I know for many of us, me included, it can be really hard to follow the latest in this crazy news cycle we're in. And we're seeing that this coronavirus is having ripple effects throughout our society. I know the Democratic National Convention was recently postponed from July until August, and the 2020 election might rely more heavily on mail-in ballots. Can you talk to us about what do you think this pandemic means for our election, not just in terms of the result, but also how will it be structured?
Well, it's funny if you watch television that everything is about the pandemic. And we forget there is a presidential election as well as a Senate election, governor's elections going on here in 2020. For those of you who don't know today, Bernie Sanders officially endorsed Vice President Joe Biden. So we are now down to the final two candidates, President Donald Trump and Vice President Biden. Kristin, what we are seeing is unprecedented. We don't know if there will be a mail-in election. We don't know if there will be a digital election. We are still unsure how the nominations of these two candidates will actually go forward if you cannot get together in a convention setting. So we, again, are in uncharted waters. If you're a political junkie, this is something fun to watch because it is unheard of as we go forward. But rest assured, we will have an election in November, and it will either be President Trump or it'll be President Biden. But there will be some normalcy going forward.
Yeah, I think uncharted waters is a good way of putting it. I know it will certainly be one to watch, that's for sure. Well, Brian, thank you for taking the time to chat with us today. I know I certainly learned a lot. And thank you to all of you for tuning in to our latest episode of Sempra Chats. Stay safe.